Hi, it's What If Wednesday time with Susan Bennett Fisher and Martin Fisher, the co-founders of Body of Nine. What if you understood the qualities of your children's natural numbers and could support them in developing their nature? When we go through life, our nurture is what is most supported or developed in us. And we're nurtured by our parents, our schools, the world around us. And with each of those new learnings, we move further and further from our nature.
Yes. As we've said, and as a reminder for everybody, there are 9 natural numbers in our body, 9 energy centers, if you will. One of those is born active at birth. And it determines your physical reality. And one of the things that we emphasize again and again is that the numbers don't repeat in families that have less than 9 members. So you and your 7 children, or however number less than 9, have each person is experiencing the world very, very differently. Your nature is very different.
So how you take in information, how you grow, how you learn what's important to you, your skills and gifts, how you learn to walk, everything. This starts to show up in your children at birth.
Yes.
From the moment they come out. My natural number 2 daughter came out with her eyes open and a bright energy that was energetically smiling at me from the moment she was born. My 7 and 8 daughters, they didn't wake up for another week or 2 after they were born.
Yeah.
So our children declare their natural number to us the moment they're born.
And that's a major difference between the Body of Nine work, of course, and anything that requires a questionnaire, because there aren't that many youngsters that can fill in a questionnaire. And I'm just kidding, of course. Because this is body-based, then you can tell from the way that your child moves at the very earliest stages a good chance about what their natural number is, and knowing that, what is their nature? What do they need from you? And how do they differ from their siblings? How do they differ from you?
Because each child really needs something completely different in terms of the way you support them and build their confidence and discipline them and all the aspects of parenting. And each child has a very unique set of qualities that are and a way of responding to the way you parent them. If you lay your belief system on your child's behaviors, you're going to be very wrong about understanding their motivations. This is one of the most challenging things for parents. One of our staff members, Jamie, she has a natural number 7 baby, and she just constantly marvels at the curiosity that her daughter demonstrates continually. She's always moving. She wants to sit on her desk. And Jamie's learned to support that behavior, not make it wrong.
And that's one of the toughest things for us to do as parents, because what we're asking you to do is to increase the investment that you've made or are making in your children by adding the ability to validate and nurture their nature.
So important.
Yes, because it flows down. Because if your children recognize that they're seen for who they are at their deepest level, then eventually they'll pass that on to their children, and it will start to flow out. And we really believe that the more people that know about this, the more it gets out into society, the better the world becomes. It may sound very Pollyanna, it may sound a little bit even over the top, but our experience has been that families that know their natural numbers find life to be easier. And the younger that the children know and understand and are honoured for being different than their peers, than themselves, than their brothers and sisters, funnily enough, the better their lives appear to be, even as a child, through some of the toughest times.
And the teenage years.
Oh, the teenage years.
That's a tough time when we don't know who we are and we're trying to figure that out, and we have to individuate, separate from our parents who've been our compass from up to that point. And if you went into your teen years knowing how your body was equipped, how it was informing you, and what you cared about, and that had been validated and honored in you instead of invalidated and questioned your whole life long, you would show up as a teenager much more powerfully, and you'd have a better sense of who you are and a better sense of who your friends are.
Yes.
And how to work together so that you don't have to morph yourself into them in order to fit in.
Yes, peer pressure, as I'm sure we all remember from when we were growing up, can be really harsh. And it's a way for the more assertive children to influence the people around them. And there is the whole dynamic of groups that if you're not aware of who you are, it's very easy to be morphed into something with nurture on top of your nature. If you go into a group knowing who you are, what is important to you, how do you make decisions, what is your body telling you and informing you about that is not happening to the rest of the group, it gives you a place of strength to stand from.
It's a place to start from and a place to understand the gift and the importance of what you bring to the community.
Yes. There's many people who, when they were younger, had some visions of magic. I think, fairy tales, Father Christmas, whatever your background is, when you were a child, what were the things that weren't really supported by your parents because they weren't real, in quotes?
Well, they weren't real to your parents.
Exactly. And that's part of the dynamic here that we want to reinforce, is that just because things aren't real to you doesn't mean they're not real to your children. And that sounds really strange.
And so the first step in this, obviously, is finding out your own natural number and understanding how that's been supported and nurtured, and how do you get back to that core within yourself. Because then you can look at your belief systems, your unconscious belief systems, and rather than lay those unconscious belief systems on top of your children as nurture from without consciousness, you can bring consciousness to it and decide, hey, yeah, actually that's an important belief system to me, and I'm going to consciously instill that in my children. Such an important thing. And I'm going to instill it in such a way as my child is still honored at their core level of who they are. Very important.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about 1 through 9.
Let's do that. Yes. So there are nine centers in the body. We've said it before. We'll keep saying it because it's a truth that we believe needs to be out there. There are 3 natural numbers in the head. There's natural number 5 at the back, natural number 7 is the third eye, and natural number 1 is at the base of the throat.
So if you notice that your kid is really head-oriented, very word-oriented, very, more spiritually oriented, potentially less embodied, if you notice those kinds of characteristics about your child, they need to be supported in a different way than if you're looking at the chest or the body. So our head energies tend to care a lot about words.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They tend to struggle most with shame. So if you shame a head energy, they take that into their body, into their being, much more powerfully than some of the other. I mean, shame is a nasty one regardless. But be very careful with your 1, 5s, and 7s. Also, their decision-making and their process is quite different as well. You want to talk about 1, 5, and 7 from your perspective?
Yes, well, my natural number is 5, so it makes some sense for me to be talking about this from my perspective. Every one of us is informed by our bodies. They're pretty much the only way that the outside world, at least the physical outside world, gets through to our consciousness. But the amount of impact that comes from that information, I think, varies very dramatically by natural number. And one of the things that we've discovered is that the odd numbers, and obviously 1, 5, and 7 are odd numbers, and 3 is an odd number as well, and that's pretty much it except for 9. These are all on the top part of the body, and the ability to take that information and combine it with everything else that's going on in one's body, whether that's sort of a spiritual input or whether it's any other kind of input, really means that the way that the head parts of the body process data is very different than the way that the other parts of the body are going to process data.
In what way?
So, for example, I'm going to make decisions based on science. I'm going to make decisions based on things that are going on. I'm going to look at my past. I'm going to look at my future. But my emotions really aren't part of that process at all. It's not going to be very much about, well, I really want to feel, my body's telling me I need to do this, that, and the other, because that doesn't really impact my experience at all. What does impact me is how do other people going to be affected? Because part of being a 5 is my understanding what other people's bodies are thinking and saying, and what is it that how my actions are going to affect them. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm always going to make the right choice or I'm going to choose that, but I'm very much aware of what's going on outside versus what's going on inside my body. And that's probably the best way to describe it.
So you think that the external influences have more impact on the odd numbers potentially?
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
what's coming in from the outside.
I think the amount of weight one is given to all the factors is very, very different. I think if you take a wild guess, you could say that there are 9 different factors that make up a number. And the even numbers, I think, give more weight to the physical, the emotional, the body feelings than the odd numbers, which give more weight to the non-physical and the other things. Now, that's not to say that, you know, there's a certain amount of nurture that changes that.
There is a certain amount of nurture, but it's something to be aware of as you're parenting your child. If their energy is essentially in the upper half of the body,
yes, they
are more likely to look outside the body for information. They may have a more spiritual orientation. They may be more interested in accuracy of words and possibility.
Yes.
Those are kind of attributes of the odd natural numbers. If you look at the even numbers, they start here with 6, 2, 4, and 8. So 2, 4, 6, and 8 are contained in the core of the body, and they are informed much more specifically by the body. I'm a 6. 6 combines energy and body. 2, 4, and 8 combine relationship and body. And so this is a very interesting thing. When you're combining relationship and body, it takes a little longer sometimes to make decisions. In the event where with the odd numbers, they're looking at all of their information, all their experiences, some spiritual component, and their body is more of a sensor.
Yes.
They take those senses in from their body, but it's part of this whole picture that they build. Whereas the 2, 4, 6, and 8 take in the information into the body is used to make sense of it. So if your kid is really body-based, let them take the time that they need to pay attention to the signals in their body. In general, 2s want to figure out how they're going to feel. 4s want to figure out how they do feel. 8s want to figure out what their body is telling them, and 6s want to figure out what the energy is telling them. So each one of those even body-based natural numbers has to take time to process the energy within their body.
And so you may ask, this is all well and good, Martin and Susan, you've basically said, okay, the top half and the middle half and the lower half, okay, 3 halves. How do I know, other than sort of by looking? And the answer is, well, as it turns out, the words we use for each of the natural numbers mean different things and are relatively unique. So your child may say, well, I feel this, or my body tells me this, or I'm not happy about this, whereas some of the even numbers may say, well, this is what I think. How about this as an idea? So the words that are used are actually also part of the way that your child is communicating with you. That's kind of an a-dur moment. Obviously the words are important, but the ability to pay attention and observe as almost a dispassionate observer is a useful trick.
It's critical as a parent. Like, what's really going on there with my kid?
Yeah.
What's their curiosity? Where is that coming from? So our neighbor boy, he's a 5, and he comes over to my house, he wants to know everything about everything in my house.
And tries everything. He'll play with everything, because 5s learn by experience. So he'll go, I've seen him, he wanders up to the waterfall and he'll move things around the waterfall and see how they work and then put them back. He's great like that.
And his sister's a 7, and she had a really rough time coming into the world, and our sense was she didn't really want to. But she's kind of got forced into it. But when she would get upset, one of the things I would do was support the back of her head, but then I would dip it up and down, and she loved this motion because it was moving her third eye, and she's this little 7 baby, and she just needed to have a different support of her body as an infant than her 2 brothers did, for example.
So, and if you are sort of keeping track of the 1, 2, 3, we actually haven't talked about natural number 9, and number 9 is on the spine. It's kind of down between the shoulder blades, and we keep 9 a little separate because even though it is an even number, or rather an odd number, it sort of sits on the fence between even and odd. It's kind of both body-based and non-body-based. And so 9...
And energy-based.
And energy-based. Yeah, 9 is kind of the pivot, if you will. It keeps us all going together. It keeps things moving. And 9's very much about flow and harmony. And while there are many systems that sort of will say, okay, anyone that's about flow and harmony has to be natural number 9. If you're a peacemaker, you're natural number 9. Well, No.
No, because people go about making peace in different ways.
9 different ways, as it turns out.
Yes.
Some numbers are actually quite comfortable with conflict. Others numbers aren't comfortable with conflict. Some of that is learned, but through the nurture, but some of that is nature.
Yeah, for example, natural number 8s, sometimes they'll pick a fight with you to see how much you care.
Yes.
To establish how strong your relationship is. They will, and also see how strong you are, how much you care about a point that you're making. So they will challenge you, and that can feel like conflict to others.
And there's natural number 7s, natural number 5s. They'll argue just to make their own decisions, to make their own point, so they learn. As a natural number 5, the more that I talk, the more I'm actually aware of what I'm thinking about. And so it's an important, each of the natural numbers has their own way of being. Do we want to go through each of the 9 one at a time?
No, I don't think so, because it's already at 12:30, and I think this will turn out to be a teaser instead.
Yes. We started a little late, but that's a technical issue.
What I want to say is our book, The Body of 9, Decode Your Natural Physiology and Discover Your True Self, actually has a lot of really powerful information about how to parent a person of each of the natural numbers.
Yes, we spent a lot of time talking to people of each of the natural numbers. We've worked with 7,500 people, and we've spent a lot of time talking and listening to them about their reality, but also a fair amount of time, how would you like to have been raised? Because no matter what, we were raised by parents that cared,
but didn't understand who we are.
And you have this amazing ability now to change that, to change the dynamic of your family, to change the dynamic of the world, really. And again, I know it sounds large, but imagine what it would be like if everybody in the world was honored for who they are.
At the level of their nature.
At the level of the nature.
So that our nature could develop into the superpower that it really is designed to be.
Yes.
We have this powerful contribution that comes with the suit that we're wearing, and if it gets invalidated continually, especially in our youth, it becomes very, very hard for us to have the confidence in our magic.
It's really hard to unwind the nurture if it has not been supportive of your nature.
Yeah.
And
it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of clarity. So you have an opportunity, if you're a parent, and a parent at any age, to help your children understand that they're different from you, that they need something different from you, and how to support them with that. It's so critical. We really, really hope that you will take some time to learn more about your children's natural numbers in order to give them what they need in their lives to become productive, happy, healthy human beings.
There's many ways to do it, but at the very least, please take a look at the book. It's on Amazon. And take a look at your children. Talk to them.
And then set up a family identification. Come and we'll tell you what's going on in your family. We'll be able to tell you things about your family dynamic that have been elusive in terms of how to solve, and we will give you simple tips and tricks for supporting each child so that everyone in the family starts to get happier and more supported.
It's an investment of a couple of hours of your time, a few dollars, and it will change the life of you and your children and your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on and so on.
And that's our Body of 9 guarantee.
Yes.
We, Susan and Martin, offer that as a guarantee that understanding your children's natural numbers will change everything.
It will make your lives happier. It will make you feel more in control of your life, and it will make you feel more that you're following the path that you've chosen for yourself.
And that you have value as a human being.
Oh, and definitely we will value and honor who you are.
Well, thanks for listening. More to come.
Yes.